Apparently we can't get clearance now on the Magritte, so designer come up with some alternatives. I seem to think of Very You, the Great Masturbator, by Salvador Dali, or possibly The Scream by Munch.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where one of us has been described as a scream before.
Yes.
That was me.
It was. I've not been described as any kind of artwork, unfortunately.
Not to your face.
No.
You okay?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you this week?
I'm good. I really liked this episode.
It's a nice episode, isn't it?
It's fun, I think.
Some interesting things to get our teeth into, but it was a good story.
And there was nothing obvious that was grating.
Exactly.
Which is always good.
We like that. But it's good when there's grating things as well. It gives us something to talk about.
Yeah. But fortunately, there was enough good points and interesting points in this episode to give us some material.
20 minutes or so, yeah.
Half hour.
We'll see how we go on.
Anything you want to say before we begin?
No.
No?
There never is.
There's not.
You ask me this every other episode.
Yeah, you're a very boring man.
I'm on a podcast with nothing to say.
Apart from a discussion on the episode.
That's it. And maybe a wee summary if you're lucky.
Have you got one?
I do.
Crack on.
In the Coonskin Cap, Jonathan and Carla are reunited in the pursuit of a serial killer, and the new Mr. Borrego has visions of TV gold and incredible ratings. With Carla herself becoming a target, and not one but two locked room mysteries to solve, the issue becomes, can Jonathan find these solutions before a production deadline? Or will his friend be left on air with nothing to say?
I know how his friend might feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We can edit out the long pause.
Yeah. We begin this week with a recounting. We start with an interesting camera manoeuvre before a voiceover from Carla describes a sinister shadow of a Davy Crockett hat.
Yeah. We're at a place named Bracefield Hospital. Now, we later see Bracefield Police Station. Are we always in Bracefield? Is that just this episode?
The vicinity.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
I didn't know if this was them establishing this as the location for all the stories.
Yeah.
Or not, but it's just an interesting thing that they use the town name. I don't think we've seen it. I don't remember seeing at least it before.
What do you mean this is where Jonathan
usually does his investigation?
No. Don't think so.
I think it's just for this story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is because one of the murder happened
The serial
here.
killer led them there.
Yes.
This is new place.
Yes.
Bracefield. Okay.
Also interesting that they immediately refer to the headgear as a Davy Crockett hat and not a coonskin cap.
It's never referred to as that, is it?
No.
I don't remember anyway in listening to the episode that name coming up. Probably with good reason.
Yeah, but why not just name the episode the Davy Crockett hat or cap?
Maybe there's trademark issues. I don't know. I have no idea.
In any case, we're at the hospital, and in true urban legend style, we see a nurse being followed in her car by a person flashing their headlights.
Yeah, well, first of all, we see her get to her car and feeling uneasy, so she's obviously on edge already. And when this person starts flashing their headlights, she panics.
She does, and she crashes into a forest area.
That was a bizarre driving decision.
Yeah.
She's driving down the road and she thinks, I'm going to turn into this forest. That'll help.
Where her perceived assailant is not what he seems.
No, she grabs a screwdriver from her glove box to puncture him, but he's able to swiftly disarm her and tell her that she's being stupid.
Yes, he was only trying to get her attention. As it turns out, she has been dragging a body of a woman behind her, and this body had been strangled.
It's quite grim, isn't it?
I liked it. This episode, there were a few scenes, this one and another which we'll get to, that I did find quite creepy. And I remember watching them first time round and thinking, it's good, The
second time that I watched the episode, I looked at the scenes before she crashes, and I'm pretty confident there was not anything tied to the back of her car during the actual driving scene.
Yeah, probably not. They're not that method.
No, but not even a dummy or anything.
Over to the TV studio.
Yeah, we see a producer who is pleased with this segment and grasps his colleague by the shoulder as he compliments his good work, but he's got a little niggles. I think there's a couple of frames need to be adjusted.
He seems very professional, very good at his job.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. This is a Crime Watch style show called Eyes and Ears.
Yes. It's apparently a data-led show. He talks about certain types of shot polling well with under 29s. And we then see an old familiar face in the studio anchoring the show.
Old?
From the previous episode.
Okay. Yes. It's Carla.
It is. She's talking about this crime and asking viewers to phone in with information.
It appears there's been a previous murder by strangulation, which also contained a sighting of the same style of cap.
Yes, so there's a link now between the two events.
Yeah.
The producer makes notes on Carla's lip gloss. He suggests a specific different shade. So he's obviously put a lot of effort into the fine details of his show.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah, he's a detail man. It's good to see. Carla herself is interviewing a Ted Parnovic. He's a superintendent.
Yeah, I didn't get his name. I just referred to him as the fascist cop following his comments here. But Carla doesn't really get the interview off to a great start when she refers to the killer as a mental deviant.
Yes. Very presumptuous.
Kind of unprofessional term to use, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe that polls well.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously trying to scaremonger for ratings. But even she is taken aback at the cop's extreme views and descriptions.
Yeah, he talks about social cleansing needing to come back and 40 years of slapped wrists, which includes things like life sentences.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think this cop has ever used the term PC gone mad?
Yes. He's voted for Brexit as well, I'm pretty sure.
100%.
Carla's a bit surprised by this, and she does her best to kind of cut him off, or at least round off the interview in an upbeat way.
Yes, and afterwards we discover that this was her first time in such a role, and the producer, who is a Brendan Baxter, is pleased with her performance.
I think absolutely so.
I think if that was your first time, yep, good job.
Yeah, definitely.
From the TV studio, we head to an eatery.
Yes, Jonathan arrives and he is looking for something or someone. It's inaudible, we don't hear what he asks, but he's pointed down to the shabbiest part of the restaurant.
Yes, the quietest part of the restaurant, where he finds Adam, hid away from the main area and accompanied by a hungry and thirsty, mature female guest.
Velda.
I thought she looked like a slightly plumper version of Judy from Richard and Judy.
Okay, you mean with the hair and makeup?
Just the face.
Alright, okay. I don't know, maybe. Jonathan wants to know why Adam's not where he had arranged to meet him, at the Ivy. Or where he'd arranged to be, I think, at least.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell us about Velda and what the situation is here.
Well, Adam lies. He says the Ivy was fully booked, and when Jonathan counters that, Adam explains that Velda won this night out with him in a raffle, and it was first prize. Oh, I think
No, it's
Jonathan suggests it was first prize, and Velda corrects him. It was second prize because she could have won a tumble dryer. And Jonathan kind of shrugs this off, and
Adam is not keen at all. He's
Adam's
just trying to get over and done with.
Yeah, but at least he showed up, I suppose. That's
He's
something.
obliged to, I suppose. You can perhaps
It's for charity.
Yeah. Why is Jonathan there?
Well, we heard at the top of the show the painting they were going to use for a part of the next theatre show, I think, was no longer possible, so they're going to have to find an alternative bit of art.
Mm-hmm.
We heard the suggestion that they used Dali's Great Masturbator, and Adam's face at that suggestion is appropriate, I would say. I think he gets what Jonathan's saying.
Certainly. So with business being done, Jonathan makes to go, but not before making a suggestion.
You know, he drops Adam right in it.
How?
He asks Velda if Adam's taking him to Stringfellows afterwards, and she's thrilled at the suggestion.
Yeah, not quite thrilled enough to stop eating and drinking.
No, she talks through the food,
Yeah.
which is a bit unfortunate. I think this is a bit of fat shaming here, isn't it? She's a bit overweight, so we'll show her as having no ability to stop eating when she's asked something.
I think it's just more she's uncouth.
Mm.
You know, it's I suppose it's all part of the same insult, but it's not as much she's fat, it's just that she's greedy and perhaps not, very socially aware.
Okay. Adam's face is a picture again, and he almost chokes on his, what I presume is champagne, but may possibly be something cheaper.
Mm. we head over to a reconstruction of the first murder, I think.
Yeah, the fascist superintendent's there and he's setting things up. I think he's in charge.
Yeah, and we meet a Sergeant Heather Davey as she prepares to take part in this reconstruction, I think, as the victim.
Yeah, she's got a blonde wig to put on. I think she's walking a dog.
Yeah, the cameras follow her, but as she walks along, gunshots ring out and everyone hits the ground before Parnevik himself spots a gun up at a first floor window, and he and the sergeant have a intimate moment.
Yes, he runs over and, without anyone noticing, takes her hand to check if she's okay. I mean, it would be touching if he wasn't evil.
Yes, if he wasn't a scumbag.
Yeah.
Inside the building, a couple of cops kick down the locked door of the book depository.
Yep, key on the inside.
And what do they find?
They find the gun is there. Nobody in the room. No way of escaping from the room. Locked from the inside, as I said, and that's a strange one.
Yeah, not only is the gun there, let's be clear, the gun is attached to the windowsill. It's not lying on the floor.
No, it's fixed in place.
To the theatre. Jonathan receives a call as he works and agrees to go to the TV studios before a hungover Adam stumbles in.
Somewhat dishevelled.
Yes, he tells a war story of his night with the lovely Velda and Brian Ferry.
It's pretty harrowing, really.
What happened?
Well, first of all, Velda bit the head off a live lobster at one point and showed off the tattoo of Mr. Bean she has on her stomach, which I think is the second time this show's had a dig at Mr. Bean.
It is.
Before choking to death on her own lobster vomit outside Stringfellows after having tried to pick Brian Ferry's nose for him.
Yeah, it's quite a mental picture.
I feel bad for poor Velda.
Yeah.
She obviously wasn't prepared for this.
No, she couldn't handle the fame, the celebrity, the lifestyle.
That's it.
Some of the best go as well, River Phoenix and what have you, and Jim Morrison's, it's...
Yeah. Velda can go on that long list.
Yeah, although I don't think she was 27.
I don't know. It's a hard life for some folk.
Anyway, back to the TV studio. And when Carla arrives at reception with Baxter, she is surprised, but not glad, it would appear, to see Jonathan signing in at the desk. And they avoid him as he heads up the elevator.
Yeah, they go off to the side and look at a BAFTA. It was interesting to see the celebrity pictures in this.
Yes.
You had Dale Winton, you had Ant and Dec.
You did.
Is this supposed to be an ITV studio? Or an equivalent, like not the BBC? Because they're competing with Crime Watch.
Uh-huh.
And these are stars who have both been on the BBC and other channels.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's maybe a bit of ambiguity there.
Well, you'd Ulrika Johnson, I noticed her as well, and she would have been GMTV at one point and some other stuff. Yeah, who knows?
But also shooting stars. So all of them are people who've been on both the BBC, so they've got the rights to the photograph.
Yeah.
And then other channels. It's quite interesting anyway. Yeah, Carla goes on to explain to Brendan that it was a reminder of a past life, and she'd explain further a wee bit later on. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't get the chance.
No, but she is going to have to revisit this past life, as when she enters Baxter's office, Jonathan is waiting on them, having been invited by Baxter himself.
How you doing, sir? Brendan Baxter. Thanks for your time. Carla Borrego has just taken over as the new anchor in the studio. Mr. Jonathan Creek, and I hope he's going to solve this little puzzle for us.
Yes, when you said about getting in a specialist investigator.
You won't believe this. 6 months ago, a theatrical agent stuck behind a desk. It was a case of lift up that bushel, the world is about to be dazzled.
Actually, we already know each other, the two of us.
Did work together a while back on another project.
Right.
No way. Well, there you go. Small world. Okay. We've all read the papers, we know why we're here. 2 women dead, 1 very nearly. Big response so far to all our appeals for information. This week, we overtook Crime Watch for the first time with a 52% share of the phone-in. And of course, more importantly, Eyes and Ears does appeal to a much younger demographic.
Kids want to check out the latest serial killing, they turn to you.
Because we don't patronise them with a load of Radio 4 homilies. Plus, we're not afraid to do our own share of the detective work, which I hope is where you can assist us on this business of the Phantom Gunman.
I think it's clear from their body language during that clip that Carla and Jonathan have had a more than a professional relationship in the time since we have last seen them.
Yeah, but Carla clearly doesn't want that to come out in front of Brendan, because she talks over Jonathan very quickly when he leads in that direction.
They go on to summarise what they know of the mystery so far, including that it would have been impossible for the gunman to have left his room unseen, and that the bullets were actually fired from that rifle. I think ballistics have confirmed
Well,
that.
that's new information, isn't it, about the bullets being confirmed as coming from that.
All very puzzling.
Brendan obviously has a grip of Jonathan's shoulder as well as he's talking to him. The second time he's been up to that, a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah. Jonathan assumes that the cops didn't touch the gun until it had been dusted for prints, and after sneering Carla confirms this, he states that this was their big mistake.
Yeah, Carla's clearly very unhappy with Jonathan for some reason.
Yeah. It's a bit of Jonathan magic there as well.
Assuming that.
Yeah. I mean, how would you know that straight away?
Well, standard procedure, I suppose.
What?
To not wipe off any fingerprints on the
No,
gun.
I mean, how would you know
to
that's
know
a mistake?
the gun wasn't fired, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose if it's in a locked room and there's nobody in it, he's assuming it wasn't fired.
Still, I
That's
think.
the obvious answer, isn't it?
But it was fired.
Not at that time, though.
Sure, but I still think, from what he knows, it's a leap to get to that.
But he does take these leaps since it's based on intuition and thought. It's not just a gamble. It's like, oh, let's see, it was gold.
Yeah. Anyway, as Baxter takes a call, Jonathan asks Carla why she didn't return any of his calls.
So obviously she's the one that's broken things off, and
She is rather prickly, perhaps embarrassed.
yeah, she says that she's now a married woman, and Jonathan looks a bit sad, I
Yeah.
have to say.
And we discover it's to Baxter himself.
Well, yeah, she doesn't say that explicitly,
No,
but she
but-
nods in his direction, says a successful businessman.
I think he leans over and lights her cigarette at this point.
Yeah. That wouldn't be allowed these days.
No.
Not in the workplace.
So forlorn and deflated Jonathan leaves at this with the instruction to meet the next day at the scene of the crime.
That's right.
What do we see next?
Well, we're in bed with Carla and Brendan.
Yes. He is working on a laptop and she is detailing the demise of her relationship with Jonathan, where apparently he insulted her father.
Yes, that would do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And at this, she saw what he was really like. Now, I'd have thought that she, in her initial meeting, saw what Jonathan was really like.
Yeah, he wasn't a nice man at all at that stage.
No.
And also, for that to be one thing at that point in a relationship, you'd think you would discuss it rather than just stop returning calls.
Yeah.
They're adults, apparently, although they don't always act like it.
However, it turns out that Baxter has heard none of this, as he had an earpiece in and was on some sort of business call.
Yeah, he wasn't paying attention to her at all. That's maybe not the last time we'll see this.
Yeah. She doesn't seem too bothered. I think she wanted to get it off her chest. I think it's one of these things where she feels guilty about not telling her husband about this relationship.
Yeah.
And so technically she has now. So if down the line he says, well, why didn't you tell me? She can say, oh, well, I did tell you. You know, she thinks that she's...
It's done, yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But it's obvious that Jonathan is playing on her mind. To the crime scene in the morning.
Yeah, the feeling I got here was that Carla's feeling a bit of imposter syndrome. She's not sure she belongs there, and she puts up a stout defence of her role without anyone having questioned
Yeah,
it.
well, I'll mention that in a moment. Yes, I agree with you. There's tension between, obviously, Carla and Jonathan, who offers a half-hearted explanation as to what might have happened and gives it a cursory glance around the place.
So Carla, at this point, is intuiting more than I think is there from what Jonathan is saying and doing and his approach to her, and she's defending things that aren't being questioned.
Yeah. I'm not sure how wrong she is, however.
No, I mean, Jonathan does make comment on the fact that Brendan's a shoulder squeezer that's only one up from red braces.
So she storms off to inspect the locked room on her own. I think she asks Jonathan...
Yeah, he says he's not interested.
I think she suggests that Jonathan would want to go up there.
Yeah, he tells her he's not interested in that room.
No. And there, as you mentioned there's a hint of Maddie as she goes up and looks around. We've seen Maddie do this before where she thinks that she can do Jonathan's job but realises when she gets there. It reminds me of the one, do you remember, what was it called, where she's looking around at the garage. Where the body was chopped.
Dance Macabre.
Yes, and the body was the fake dummy was placed in the and in that episode she was looking around on her own, but didn't really know what she was doing or
No
looking
idea.
for. And from there, she looks down and watches Jonathan enter the building across the way, the one with the bullet holes and the glass windows.
Yeah, we see him going into this warehouse and looking at the bullet holes.
Yes, and he notices a trace of something around them.
Yeah, I thought that was blood, but maybe not.
No,
What do you think it was?
well, I know the answer. You asked me what I thought it was.
Yeah, when it first came up.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. It's a dark coloured
Yeah, it's a
mark.
little bit something brown.
Yeah. And unspecific.
Outside, and they are together again, where Carla has to admit defeat, and Jonathan tells her that she was looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, this makes no sense, this theory that Jonathan has, that the gun was set up well in advance. So he's saying that all those police were there, no one noticed a gun sticking out of the first floor window that was set up before they even got there.
Not just the police, there was a TV crew there.
TV crew and the reporter that was asking the sergeant's name and whatever else, yeah.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
Very much. Especially as it's spotted immediately after the...
Yeah. In any case, the clue was in the abandoned warehouse with the bullet holes, he says. He then offers an explanation that involves remote control charges and this previously set up rifle.
Yeah, and Carla does pick up on that and she says, oh, the rifle would have been cold. She knows
Yeah.
what that means. And Jonathan feels at this stage that something sinister is going on. And I'm thinking, well, no bleep. 2 people are dead.
Yes.
Obviously something sinister is
Slightly
going on.
sinister, yeah. Carla, to her credit, also deduces from what Jonathan has said that the gunman didn't intend to kill Sergeant Davy.
Yeah, there was no shooting going on.
Over to the police station, and Jonathan and Carla are shown into Parnevic's office to wait for him, and from the window, Jonathan, I think, notices Sergeant Davy sitting on the steps outside having a cigarette whilst a male cleaner eyes her with maybe menace or...
Yeah, I called him a brooding janitor. I don't know what he was doing there, but certainly had a look on his face.
lechery.
Perhaps.
What happens next?
Well, Jonathan says that he saw Carla's interview with Parnevik on the television and he thought she did very well to head him off before he got to Chinese water torture.
Carla's in for a bit of a shock here, however.
Yeah, well, she's looking through files on the superintendent's desk, and as Jonathan chastises her for doing that, she gets, as you say, a bit of a shock. She opens a drawer, setting off a ginormous airbag.
Just as Parnevik himself walks in and deflates this gadget of his.
Yeah, he asks them to excuse his gadgetry, but security in this place is notoriously unreliable. That doesn't really ring true.
Not at all, no.
You could have locked the drawer.
Also interesting that it hasn't taken Carla long to become more like Maddie. If you remember in her first appearance, Jonathan asked her to get into Bronson's trailer.
Yeah, she wasn't up for
She
it.
didn't. She said, "I don't know what to do. This isn't my job. I'm an agent." But very quickly, she's now a snooping.
Proactive journalist type. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carla's clearly shaken at the whole airbag incident and tries to get her words out, but she's kind of, like I say, not at her best anyway.
No.
But she tells the cop she wants to discuss some ideas they have about the gunman. She gets it out in the end.
At the theatre.
Yeah, there's a terrible bit of CGI on the exterior where they've clearly superimposed a giant picture of Adam to a shot of the outside of this theatre. It does not work very well on a big screen television.
No, and on the stage, he is performing dressed as Sigmund Freud, I think.
Yeah.
Before we have some male frontal nudity.
Yeah, we've got a streaker, runs on, interrupts the show, does a little dance.
Wiggles his bits.
Yeah, you see everything.
You do?
Too late, we've seen it all.
Mm-hmm. And we cut back to the police station.
Yes, here the fascist policeman's taking a call. Something's happened.
Yes, at a local college where someone has been spotted wearing a Davy Crockett hat, and he instigates an immediate armed response.
Right, first question. Why is the superintendent taking a call of that nature?
Yeah, that would go through to...
A switchboard.
Switchboard, yeah.
I think we learned that he obviously wasn't taking a call of that nature, but...
Yeah, no, unless... I would disagree with that, because if what you're saying is true, then he shouldn't have taken that call. So therefore, people would start to question that and say, well, you wouldn't take calls. We didn't receive a call. And they check the log. I think probably there has been a call.
It's been arranged to there to be a call, but it's still, why would it come through to him?
But you don't know if he is talking to the member of the public. It might have been an internal call. So obviously, your average your desk sergeant gets this tip off.
So you think this is a call up from reception?
Of course, yeah.
Or-
The desk sergeant, I don't think, has got the authority to organise armed response.
Okay, that makes more sense when you put it that way.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But your point is right. So who made this call? It would
Yeah.
have to have an accomplice or
That's never mentioned.
unless. I was going to say unless this was a real tip off and he just used this as a.
An excuse.
But then.
I suppose people get paranoid. They think they see something, and he uses it to stage this response.
Yeah. Anyway, in the locker room, everyone's getting ready and rushing out, but he speaks to Davy. She is not obliged to go to this.
No, because she's had a shocking experience with the gunman at the previous event.
But she tells him it is her passage out of uniform. She's obviously very driven and she's got goals in mind.
Yeah, and she wants to get out of uniform and into the CID.
Yes, and as she says, as she smirks, because she says that that's how Parnevik likes her, out of uniform.
Absolutely. At this stage, he pulls out a jewellery box. It looks like maybe he's going to propose to her, yeah.
He acknowledges that it's not the right time. Now, that's an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, why would you? Anyway, we go to the college.
Yeah, and we are left to roll our eyes violently when Heather is sent alone to check out the gym. Why would that be done? Why would it not be two of them?
Yeah, I know.
It would always be two of them.
It should be, yeah. Yeah, there's a potential serial killer roaming the grounds.
Yeah, nobody goes off on their own.
No. Anyway, she does get into this gym hall, and we see is it a pommel horse? Is that what they're called? No,
Vaulting horse.
vaulting
they call
horse.
it, yeah.
Oh yeah, the pommel horse is the one where you've got the two
handles
and you
on
swing
it.
around with your legs. Yeah, okay, a vaulting horse. Just before the lights are cut, and she is locked in.
Yes.
So what does she do?
Well, she radios, obviously, for assistance.
Yeah, she calls Parnevik, who orders the place to be surrounded before rushing to the door outside and telling her to get against the wall in order to stop the killer getting behind her.
At one point, he declares, "God help us all," which makes no sense at all.
No, all of you?
There's only her that's locked in the room. Yeah.
Over the walkie-talkie, we hear her struggle and call someone a bastard before they find a key and open the door to reveal her lying on her back.
Yes, she's dead, and there's no sign of anybody else.
No, and it appears to be from strangulation.
There is certainly some indication of that.
Now, the obvious. This reminded me of Columbo Dead Weight.
Okay.
If you remember in that episode, there is a coffin-shaped box being sealed when he arrives and he's looking at it and thinking, yeah, it'd be too obvious, but I need that box opened up. And in this case, the gym is empty, apart from that vaulting horse.
Yes.
And we see it being lifted to the side.
Yeah, they're not missing that.
No, there's nothing underneath it.
Obviously.
It's a little bit later. We're still in the gym
Yeah, Carla showed up.
with Jonathan, and Parnevik talks out loud as they listen.
Until last night, I just thought we were looking for a lunatic. But now I don't know. He's even human. I was right outside that door while he was. I couldn't do a thing to help her. 10 seconds later, what? He slipped through a crack in the wall? The whole thing is unreal. So forgive me if I don't put my confidence in some mop-haired magic geek.
To lose one of your colleagues like that has got to be absolutely the worst thing. Though, would I be wrong in thinking she was more than just a colleague?
I'm not convinced that's the most relevant question.
No, but in fairness, she is now a journalist, and I think she's looking for confirmation of this suspicion.
And where did she get the suspicion?
Not sure.
From a source, maybe.
Perhaps just the way he was acting.
Who knows? I did quite enjoy, I know it's not meant to be funny, but Jonathan up a ladder looking at basketball nets in the background.
Yeah.
It was quite amusing.
Parnevik was also quite rude to Jonathan there for no reason at all.
Yeah, leave his hair alone.
In the canteen, and over a cuppa, Parnevik admits to the relationship with Davy and explains why he wanted to keep it quiet.
Yeah, they've gone from the school, I presume, back to the police station canteen. Who thinks the school canteen?
Could be that it's not a college.
Certainly there's been some time elapsed, but
Yeah.
now he's answering the question that was asked
Yeah.
at the end of the previous scene, just conveniently.
Yeah. No, it might actually be back in. No. Oh, who knows?
Yeah. He explains that it's a delicate situation because he didn't want people to think, or maybe Heather didn't want people to think that she was earning promotion on the back of her relationship.
The back of her back.
Mm.
As Panovic goes to talk to someone else, Jonathan then listens again to the recording of Davy's last words and is puzzled by a buzzing sound that can be heard.
Yeah, he's not able to identify it.
No. And on his return, Panovic has some interesting news.
Blood was found on the flak jacket.
Yes, but it wasn't Davy's.
No, and at this, it looks like Carla's got a eureka moment.
Yes, the three victims were Heather, Rose and Iris.
That'll work well on the television.
Yeah, a very floral connection.
We get a brief shot of someone watching Carla on the television talking about this floral connection.
Yes, it's a younger woman in a flat, it appears. She is seemingly distressed.
Yeah, she's having a drink and maybe trying to calm herself down. I don't know. She turns the television off.
And looks worriedly out of the window.
Yeah.
The windmill. I like it at the windmill.
Yeah, it's not featured much in this episode, but it's good to get back there and see Jonathan watching himself being talked up on television.
Yes, he is looking at Carla's overly sensationalist presentation of the facts with annoyance and perhaps a bit of embarrassment as his own face is put up on the screen.
Yeah. And if he's annoyed and embarrassed now, it's only going to get worse.
Back to the theatre.
Yes, Jonathan is annoyed and embarrassed to find that Adam has hired the streaker because polling showed it went down well.
Yes, it's a Gary Basco, but I don't understand how that would work. There'll be critics there, there'll be people who will be reporting on that.
I suppose it's the same with any show. It's the same every night if you go to see anything at the theatre.
Yeah, but the whole point is that a streaker is meant to be impromptu and not planned. So if someone reports, oh, and last night it was really funny, it was fantastic, there was a streaker that ran on.
The reaction would be dulled
Different,
with
yeah.
anyone who'd read the report or
You'd
seen
be waiting
it
for the streaker to come on.
Yeah, but not everyone in the audience will have known it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone, but
If
really.
you've not read the reviews or you've not seen it before, which will be about 90% of the audience.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jonathan asks if he's talking to Captain Queeg, which is a very niche reference
What's that?
to The Cane Mutiny by Herman Wold,
Oh, okay.
who is 102 years old and still alive.
Really?
Yeah, Queeg took over as a captain of a ship and made some bizarre decisions, apparently.
Thank
I
you,
guess
Wikipedia.
the reference is to this being a bizarre decision by Adam that's going to lose him the support of his colleagues.
Yeah. He confronts Adam, who is not interested in his disapproval, but does tell him that he expects him to be in attendance at the late and lovely Felda's funeral.
Yeah, he tells Jonathan his views are redundant. Which is quite harsh.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this, like this was so early Adam was like, and he'd seemed to soften a little bit. Maybe he's just
I think he's perhaps under pressure here.
feeling it, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the whole Velda.
Yeah, I suppose it's a difficult circumstance when you've witnessed a death like that.
Jonathan, however, is able to put Adam's own demographics guru at ease.
Is he?
He is, by telling her that coral is an animal and not a plant. I think she was worried that she might be next on the hit list.
Oh, okay. We're at a restaurant next. It's dinner for 3.
It is. Baxter is proudly revealing the new ratings for the recent show with Carla and Jonathan before telling him he is going to run with Jonathan's solution on Monday.
Jonathan's not impressed that ratings are all he's interested in. There's a third death, and it's not something to be pleased about.
No, and Jonathan is also correct. It's not a solution at the moment. It's a
theory, a working theory.
But Baxter is able to turn him around by claiming that Jonathan is there to add an academic approach to matters.
Yeah, and at this, he makes a comment about his blood pressure, which sets a marble rolling for Jonathan.
It does indeed, which is noted by Carla, but who is then told not to crowd the intuitive genius.
I don't think Carla was impressed by that.
No.
But Brendan also uses the line that Jonathan used to Maddie, which I found unimpressive at the time, about not being able to begin to understand how these things work.
Outside, Baxter takes a call and has to unfortunately tell them that he has to leave.
Yes, and then he does leave.
But almost immediately, Carla is accosted by the girl from the flat.
Yeah, the one that we saw watching her on television. She confirms that Carla is who she thinks she is and says that there's information she has to share in private.
Yes. She's a nervous wreck. She drops her bag as she's trying to hand over her telephone number.
Yeah, and insists that Carla comes alone to her flat later that night.
No chance. A
You wouldn't do
strange
that.
woman, tells you to come to your flat and makes a point of saying, come alone? I don't think so.
No.
Unfortunately, Carla doesn't.
She doesn't sense the danger, I don't think.
No, but she doesn't come alone either. She takes Jonathan.
Well, she does take Jonathan. They're on their way home, but they just appear to go straight there. The girl wouldn't have had time to get home.
Yeah,
Maybe they've been somewhere else for a drink first or something.
perhaps. They're in the car anyway as Carla drives to this woman's house, and they argue about how Baxter thinks of everything as numbers and demographics.
Yeah, it's an awkward conversation because of the
Very.
relationships involved, I think.
Yeah, I think Jonathan is clearly jealous, and Carla says as much before bringing up the father incident.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem sure what she's talking about.
No, but he does remember having hiccups. But before they can discuss it further, they arrive at their destination.
They have a brief conversation once they've arrived about the cap and what the sightings were.
Yeah, Jonathan thinks that there's something odd about this. Is that really what has been seen? In any case, Carla leaves him and heads up to the flat.
Yeah, when she gets there, she finds the front door ajar
Yeah.
and goes in.
I mean, I think it's fair to say it's not the most salubrious of flats or locations, I don't think.
No, it's not. It's a kind of a rundown estate.
Yeah. The door, as you say, is ajar, and she heads in, but you wouldn't do that. You would call for Jonathan as well. I think if the door's opened, it's suspicious. No
Yeah.
one leaves their door opened.
Yeah. While she's doing that, Jonathan's brain is still ticking over.
Yes. We then see him become startled as he flashes back to the encounter with the woman and recalls the contents of her bag when she dropped it.
Yeah, he remembers a massive hairband and does a bit of thinking about what that would make her hair look like and comes to the conclusion it would be a Davy Crockett hat sort of look.
Yes. So he rushes to Carla's rescue, but before he gets there, we get what I thought was a legitimately creepy shadow of the supposed cap and Carla being strangled.
Yes, but Carla's not your usual victim type.
No, again, I thought this was nice as well. She doesn't have to wait to be rescued by Jonathan the hero. She sorts out the woman on her own.
Yes. And then Jonathan arrives and gives her a bit of a hug.
Yes.
Because obviously it's an emotional experience for her.
Oh, very frightening, yeah.
Yeah.
Disturbing. She could have been dead.
Could have been, but not.
No. So back to the police station, and via a monitor, Carla and Jonathan and Parnevik watch as the killer is interviewed.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of criminal psychologist that's speaking to her. And when she comes out of the interview, she concedes that she literally can't figure out this woman.
Yeah, Moira Jane Rowe, I think her name is.
Okay.
And she is apparently being very evasive about the Sergeant Davy killing.
Yes, she says they need to find that one out for themselves. Something along those lines.
Yeah, it doesn't fit with the other two crimes, or certainly with what Moira has been discussing.
No.
This obviously puzzles Jonathan, who chats with Carla as they head downstairs.
So, as serial killers go, not exactly archetypal, would you say?
Because real life can be very badly written. The idea that a young woman can go around killing other young women just because she likes it is a psychoanalyst's nightmare. And because inconveniently, for the tabloid criminologists, there was no pattern to the victims of any kind, and no tidy little backstory to explain why she did it.
All right. But it still leaves us with a major disappearing act that does have to be explained, and I haven't heard any wise words from you lately on that subject.
I'm tempting to keep coming back to that vaulting horse, but I've probably been watching too many prisoner of war films. We know it was the first place they looked. Our best shot's got to be that recording. What did she say? You bastard, you'll never get away. The place was clearly airtight. She knew that. So why do I feel that it was a strange choice of words?
She was choking to death at the time, which can sometimes cloud the judgment.
Just can't unlock it.
Well, why don't you go home for the night and try wiggling your key, and I'll check in with you tomorrow lunchtime. Not that I want to crowd your intuitive genius, but we do have this thing called a production deadline. Excuse me.
As they leave, they're being watched by that creepy janitor guy.
They are, yeah. Back to the theatre, and the streaker apparently has let fame get to his head and is now acting like a diva.
Yeah, he's being very rude to one of the girls on the team, making demands and generally being quite unpleasant.
But Jonathan is fantastic here. He grabs him by his smalls, fires him, and then throws him out into the street just as Carla appears.
Very nicely handled. I thought this is maybe the high point of Jonathan's chivalry.
Yeah, some of the crew are watching on in appreciation.
Absolutely.
I think the streaker, he shouts some stuff, doesn't he, about I'll ruin you and
Yeah,
never
he
work
says
out.
you don't have the authority to fire me, and then when he accepts that he's going, he says they'll regret it in any way.
Inside, Carla and Jonathan continue the argument about how he spoke to her father, and it turns out that he called him a prickly gent.
Except missing out the late gent at the end.
Because he had hiccups.
Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that could be discussed.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jonathan says it's not his fault if she only heard the first half, which is a eureka moment for him.
It certainly is.
He realises that what they heard on Heather's death tape wasn't the entire thought.
Yeah, I think he also uses the scream to highlight how perception can be changed.
Yes, is it someone hearing a scream or someone screaming?
Yeah. He then talks of the buzzing on the recording, and as you mentioned there, about what Davy actually said before he asks Carla what the most common explanation for blood on a shirt is.
She struggles a bit with that.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. It's a fairly obvious one. You don't have to be a criminal mastermind or a...
Yeah, so if someone's picked a spot on their face.
Clearly.
Anyway, I think also important is not just what Heather said, but who she said it to.
Yes.
So that's another part of the conundrum that he may well have solved.
And we cut to another reenactment with Parnevik.
Yeah, we're at the gym where Heather died. And it looked to me like Jonathan receives a bin bag full of something.
He does. Everyone is there, including Baxter.
I say look to me, he does receive a bin
Yeah,
bag.
he does. Yeah. Carla starts her presenting as she walks into the gym to talk to Parnevik and Jonathan, who is there with a solution. Now, surely Parnevik would have known about this or would have discussed it before the cameras were rolling.
I think they maybe lied to him because they've obviously told the rest of the police because they respond as you would anticipate. So I think it's just a get it on camera moment. Maybe they can get a confession and save themselves having to get the evidence.
Yeah. Jonathan starts by stating that it is unusual, not unheard of, but unusual for a woman to call another woman a bastard.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and suggests that Sergeant Davy was in fact talking to Parnevik and is attempting to say that you will never get away with it. But this was cut off before she could complete the sentence.
Absolutely. Parnevik is clearly taken aback. He twirls his moustache a little bit and staggers.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is quite obviously very angry and trying to be indignant, but Carla cuts him off very sharpish.
I think she's got a bit more confidence here. She's on more familiar turf. She's got some substance behind what she's saying and she's confident that she's right.
And at this we see some uniformed cops appear at the door as she asks Jonathan to continue with another issue that he had.
I had to ask myself why someone who'd previously strangled their victims would suddenly want us to believe they were toting a gun. Unless, of course, this was the work of someone else with another agenda entirely. Someone who'd decided to use these serial killings to mask a murder of their own.
Moira Rowe's only comment on what happened here, you'll have to fit it together. There's some evidence she may have had trouble mentally separating this crime from her own. That, or she just didn't choose to cooperate.
The more I thought about it, I could see only one possible reason to introduce the threat of gunfire.
Recovered from the boot of your car earlier this morning, and the whole key to how Heather Davy was murdered. May I? Of course,
course, your passion for gadgetry was already well known to our superintendent. Except what we have here is rather more lethal than an airbag in a desk.
The prototype for which I eventually realised was lying in my drawer at home. Anyone who's ever used one of these home blood pressure monitors will know how tight they have to get to cut off your circulation. Buzzing sound familiar? So I think we can imagine what something like this would feel like applied to your chest.
Poor Carla's made to put this thing on.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would trust.
A bit risky, isn't it? What if we
Very.
couldn't get it to turn off?
Huh?
How often have they tested it?
I know. Also, the hiding of a murder within someone else's murders, a method also used by Agatha Christie in the ABC murders.
Spoilers.
Yep.
I think we spoiled Orient Express not that long ago on one of the podcasts.
Yeah. I was just down at the mousetrap there, Ian.
Did
As
you
you know.
enjoy it?
Yeah. Worked it out.
Did you get the cheese?
I did.
Excellent.
Not going to spoil the ending of that.
No, I know it's such a new show. Folk are going to want to get out there and see it.
Anyway, as you mentioned, Jonathan demos the bulletproof vest that Carla is now wearing before a flashback shows Parnevik in action and setting off the vest by remote control.
Yeah, before that he's switched the flak jackets when he's talking to Heather in the locker room. So he had been wearing it, and it's his blood that's on it from a shaving cut, which we all knew is the most likely cause of blood in the collar.
And apparently, Davy had realised too late who and what was going to be responsible for her demise.
Very much too late. Carla takes a bit of pleasure here at reminding Parnevik of his views on crime and punishment.
Yeah, I mean, he's a broken man at this point. He admits to the killing and it explains a motive of pride, as he knew that he was only a means to an end for Davy, who was controlling him.
Yeah, because he's letting her. He just didn't have the spine to stand up to her and stop it.
Yeah, well, he liked what she was offering, but yeah, knew it was. I mean, it was ego as well.
Yeah, he confused taking control with murdering.
Yeah, I mean, we get another flashback to her and the cleaner, but from a different viewpoint. In fact, the viewpoint of Parnevik himself, and we see that she was physically flirting with the guy. So that's that's what his involvement was.
Yeah, and then we get the rest of a conversation that we caught the beginning of earlier in the episode.
What was that?
Well, we got to the point where he appeared to be proposing.
Yes, it wasn't a proposal. What was it?
It's a necklace. It was a pretty cheap-looking necklace, and she put it on.
Yeah.
They had a bit of a chat. It wasn't a pleasant chat. He's upset that she is only showing up at his place one night out of 7. Mm-hmm. She says he shouldn't be greedy.
At his age?
It's more than most folk get.
Yeah.
And they kiss, and it seems like, okay, they're making up, and then he starts pulling this necklace onto her throat.
This is what caused the apparent strangulation.
Yeah, and it quite reasonably enrages her. Mm-hmm. She tears off the necklace and doesn't wear it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you would really have to it would have to be a very sturdy necklace in the first place, and it would have to be pulled very tightly. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's possible.
She would probably think he was trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And report it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, we hear this relationship wasn't as romantic as it may have been assumed. And she's been openly taunting him.
Yeah, I think that was quite nicely done, the way that we had seen one half of this relationship initially, and then it was flipped round here at the end to show why he resorted to murder.
Back in the present day, he tries to compose himself and then commends Mr. Creek for his very fine work before being led off.
Well, that was probably genuine.
Yes. A little later, we're outside, and a delighted Baxter has his arms around both Jonathan and Carla, and congratulates this new successful team.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Carla and Jonathan are quite as enthusiastic as he is.
I think they squirm a little bit because they know of this relationship, perhaps feeling a little bit guilty and uncomfortable.
I think that's probably fair.
Yeah. Where is the final scene this week?
It's a very undignified finale to the episode. We head to Velda's funeral. Velda Bessie?
Who cares?
Velda Bessie Winstanley.
Right.
So that's my autocorrect has changed Bessie to Bessemer.
Okay.
Adam, apparently, having met her once and only very briefly, is speaking at the funeral.
Delivering a eulogy.
It's a perfectly reasonable eulogy that he's doing, but it is undermined.
How's it undermined?
As the disgruntled streaker from earlier returns to streak at the funeral. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think that embarrasses Adam. I think it only embarrasses him.
Maybe, but I think he's just trying to ruin Adam's life at any opportunity.
Yeah, he's just being inappropriate.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
It was ridiculous.
So there we have it. Thoughts on this week's episode, Iain?
I thought it was quite good. I quite enjoyed this episode.
I think it's the right balance between that sort of comedy, a decent plot. I really appreciated this week the number of different clues which sort of made sense and built up this picture.
Yes, it wasn't like a sudden leap from everything looks one way and then it's the other. It was when we got the twist and the flip, it made sense.
Yeah. Good performances. I thought Parnevik was good himself.
Absolutely.
Adrian Edmondson.
Always good.
Very good. Will we chat about them?
Why not?
Okay. This episode was first broadcast on the 1st of March 2003, and we've now moved to a 60-minute length.
For the rest of this season, I believe.
We also have a new director.
Who was that?
Christine Gernon, or Gernon. Gernon. How's that pronounced?
I would say Gernon. Maybe.
Okay. Christine Gernon, yeah. She was born in 1970. This is her first of 3 Jonathan Creek episodes. She has also directed The British Empire, One Foot in the Grave, Eyes Down, Gavin and Stacey, Hepburn, The Kennedys, the American show The Goldbergs, New Girl, and Speechless.
Must have been a bit of a prodigy at that age. That's her mid-30s. She's
Well, 33, yeah. I mean, not quite prodigy material, but young, yeah.
for the industry, yeah.
For the industry, yeah. Brendan Baxter was played by Adrian Edmondson, as we know, and as we've discussed before on the Blackadder podcast.
It's a very popular companion podcast to this one.
Born in 1957, he's a writer, director and actor. He met his long-term comedy partner Rick Mail while studying at Manchester University. Best known for The Young Ones and Bottom, also the comic strip Presents, Blackadder, War and Peace, Hobie City, Teenage Kicks, Captain Star, Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, and is married to another comedy legend in Jennifer Saunders.
I always remember him from Celebrity Fame Academy, which must have been around about the same time as this.
Really?
He did a bizarre performance of turning Japanese, which has stuck with me ever since.
Okay. Funny guy.
Probably on YouTube.
No doubt. Terence Hiller played Superintendent Parnevik. Born in 1950, he has appeared in Casualty, Doctors, Hobie City, The Bill, EastEnders, Picking Up the Pieces and Coronation Street. I think he's also a Shakespearean stage actor.
The way you said Coronation Street there was quite unique.
Really?
Coronation Street. Coronation.
Quite unique?
Yes.
That's Alan Partridge stuff there. You don't get degrees of uniqueness. You're either unique or you're not.
I know, I was tampering it down a bit so you didn't feel bad.
I don't feel bad.
Okay.
The lovely Velda was played by Tina Martin. She has been in The Barnstormers, London Belongs to Me, The Bill, Miss Marple, Z-Cars, and her daughter is the actress Florence Hoth. Anna Wilson-Jones played Heather Davy, Sergeant Heather Davy. She was born in 1970 and has starred in Victoria, Black Mirror, DCI Banks, Hotel Babylon, Ashes to Ashes, Afterlife, Hex, Monarch of the Glen, Spaced, and The Bill. Her husband is the actor Steve John Shepherd. Andrew Clover played the streaker Gary Basco. He was also born in 1970 and is known for My Almost Family, Ashes to Ashes, Dressing for Breakfast, Casualty, Cardiac Arrest, and The Bill. He received a first-class degree from Oxford and is known for his one-man stage show in which he takes off all his clothes.
There you go.
Yeah. Veronica Lear was Moira Jane Rowe, the serial killer. She's only had 3 other credits: Armchair Detectives, Peak Practice, and The Blue Boy.
She's been in prison since this.
Yep. Any trivia for us?
Just one small bit. At the start of the episode, Carla is presenting this Eyes and Ears show, and there's a crawl that tells people to call in on 08081 570 980. That exact number was also used as the emergency number for the people of London to call in the 2005 Doctor Who episode Aliens of London with Christopher Eccleston.
Ah, okay. I'm assuming that's a BBC-owned
I think they'll have a bank of numbers that are safe to use on their shows, yeah.
Sure. The only other thing I've got is that during the episode, Parnavik is referred to as a superintendent, but is credited in IMDb and the likes as only an inspector.
Interesting. Maybe he was pretending. Maybe he gets demoted at the end for his crime.
Inspector Ghoul. Ooh. Episode review.
Okay.
Motive.
Escape from what he sees as a hopeless situation, I would imagine. And
Hopeless situation.
well, he feels he's under her control and he can't get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've went more for sort of pride and jealousy and ego.
I suppose that's also fair. In terms of the serial killer, there's not much of a motive, just likes to kill people.
Yeah. Clues, quite a lot this week. We've got the cold gun, the stained bullet holes, the lack of intent to kill Davy, Parnavik's love of gadgets, the buzzing sound, the blood pressure, and the blood on the shirt.
The language that David uses.
Yes. And we have the gotcha, the buzzing and the unfinished sentence, as you mentioned there.
Yeah.
Next time, we've got angel hair.
That sounds interesting.
Ah.
I hope they keep this up, this high level.
So do I.
We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
We will indeed. Okay, until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.